Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be smoking a brisket using my Masterbuilt electric smoker and the amazing pellet smoker. Alright, so before we get into this brisket, I wanted to show you my setup. As always, you want to put this pan down here to catch some of the drippings. You want your water pan. Here in this water pan, what I did is I added apple cider vinegar to the mix. I used some of it. Do not fill it up all the way because the fat droppings are going to get in here as well. It's going to add to this, so don't fill it up all the way. You always want to put your fat trapper in the back. But for right now, that's a major setup. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to light up my amazing pellet smoker so we can get this party started. The next thing I want to do is you want to actually turn on your smoker. You want to set it at 220 degrees, and then the temperature, the time, I'm just going to leave it at 24 hours. This brisket has been sitting in my refrigerator. I seasoned it overnight. I did use my seasonings that I like to use, which is Rudy's Rudy's seasoning. A lot of the stuff that I use here in my videos, I have a link on the description below in case you guys are interested. I buy a lot of my stuff from Amazon, fat side up this time around, because I would like for the fat to kind of melt. Whatever can render is going to go down to the brisket instead of falling. Now, the other thing you do want to consider, wherever your heat source is from on your Masterbuilt, or wherever your smoker is coming from, my heat source is coming from right to left. So I'm going to put the point on that side because that's the thicker part, and it would help if you put the thicker part on the side where your heat source is. So I'm going to load this puppy up and I'm going to show you what to do next. So I loaded up the brisket. The next thing I want to do is I want to put a external meat probe here, just so that I know what the temperature is on my meat, so that I don't have to be guessing. So what you want to do is you want to stab this somewhere in the middle. Try not to hit a fat layer. So the other step that I like to do is I like to actually leave another one. I don't know if you can see it here. Let me see if I can pan it a little bit. There's another one here that kind of tells me my temperature. The reason I want to do that is because it is an electric smoker. If for whatever reason something happens, the power goes off in the middle of the night, I'm going to leave this one preset to a certain temperature. If it falls below that temperature, I know there's something wrong. So I have that one to monitor the internal temperature of the actual smoker, and I have this one to monitor the internal temperature of the actual meat. But for now, at the bottom, if you can see, I already put in my amazing pellet smoker. We're going to be smoking for at least 12 to 14 hours, or until the internal meat temperature of the brisket gets into at least 190 to 185. Whenever you're using this amazing pellet smoker, you do need to remove the chip tray hopper, because if you don't, not enough air goes into here, which kind of like suffocates the smoldering pellets inside. So don't stick this in here, because this will turn off your smoke from your pellet smoker. Leave it open and leave the damper on top as well open. That way air flows in through the bottom and it comes up through the top. All right, that's something that I learned the hard way. Make sure you leave that open. So there are going to be times during the cook where I am going to be doing some spritzing on my brisket. What you want to do is you want to get yourself of course, a food grade spray bottle, and you want to add a little bit of your apple cider vinegar in here. That's a good 10 ounces is way more than enough. The key to a good brisket is keeping it low and slow. If you try to rush this, you'll get a brisket that'll come out, but it's going to be very tough. So we're about 2 hours and 45 minutes into the cook. I wanted to show you guys where we're at in regards to this amazing maize pellet smoker. We're going to open up the box and see what we have. All right, so you got some smoke coming out of here. It's a faint smoke, not as much smoke as I normally am used to. All right, so we're at about 3.5 hours into the smoke. Let's see what this baby looks like. Let me see if I can turn on the light. Let's see what type of bark we're getting on this, and let's see if the amazing pellet smoker is still smoking. Well, the answer is yes on the pellet smoker. It's gone that far. Alright, so it's getting a nice little color to it. It's starting to crust up just a little bit. Alright, so we're hitting the 4-hour mark, and typically this is a time when I start to spritz. So we're about 5.5 hours into the smoke. I'm gonna go ahead and open this up, and open it up, and I'm gonna go ahead and spritz a little bit more. What's different about this video was that I was gonna use the amazing pellet smoker to test it out. So far, like I said, it's been about 5.5 hours of smoking, and if you look at the amazing smoker, it is maybe, no, I wouldn't even say, it's a little bit over a third. Maybe it's about 40% done. This wasn't a set it and forget it for this amazing pellet smoker. What I've had to do off camera is every once in a while I've had to open it up when I've noticed that there wasn't enough smoke. I've had to come in here and actually fan the flames a little bit so it can light up again and ignite. Now, another thing that you want to consider whenever you're smoking a brisket, regardless of what you're using for your chips, when you start to close your damper up here, it's gonna turn from a smoke, turns a little bit more into like an oven style. So if you like a harder crust on it, or a harder bark, I would leave the damper open all the way so it can allow for more air to be flowing. All right, guys, welcome back. Now it's time to pull out the brisket. The brisket has hit the internal temp that I needed. I was looking between 190 and 195. I have two meat probes. One of them is already hitting 190. The other one over here is telling me that it's already at 198. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna open it up, see what this guy looks like, let's see what the bark looks like, and then we're gonna pull it out. Oh, that looks good. Now, one of the things that I did try out during this smoke was the pellet smoker, the amazing pellet smoker. I did come out a couple of hours ago, and they were still on at the very tail end. So it did last about 13 hours. Hold on, let me, before it actually burnt out. So, I mean, if that doesn't tell you how juicy it is, that's where the meat probes were. And that's the juices coming out. So I want to wrap this before all of that comes out. All right, guys, so what I am doing today, I am going to be wrapping it using the pink butcher paper. The reason I want to use this instead of foil is because this allows for a little bit more breathing. It'll save your bark that you have on your meat. What it is, I align my ice chest with foil paper. This baby's going to be sitting in here for at least minimum of 2 hours. All right, guys, so we're back. We're at that final stage. Now is the time to actually cut up your brisket and enjoy it. All right, so there you go. This is what your brisket looks like. Well, the way this one came out. This is the lean part, and this is your more of your moist part of the brisket. There's a couple of ways of cutting the brisket. You can cut it right down the middle. The one part overlaps the other, so you always want to cut against the grain. So it looks like the grain is coming this way, so I'm going to cut against the grain. This is the lean part. I mean, it's very, very tender. As you can see, I mean, it's pulling apart. One of the things you want to do is you want to do the bend test. If your brisket bends over like this, especially the lean part, you know you have a good brisket. It's wanting to fall apart right there at the seam, so this is a good thing. It is a thick piece of meat and it's still bending, so that's a very, very good sign of how tender and juicy this brisket's going to come out. You can start seeing it come out a little bit more, and this is where your juices are starting to come out. I don't know if the camera can pick that up. Let me see if I can zoom in. Alright, so that's where the good stuff's starting to happen. This is where it gets all the, this is where the fat has already rendered and it's going into your actual meat. Alright, so this is where it gets a little tricky. This right here, you can clearly see there's a difference between the lean part and the moist part. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to slice this so that I can get the top and the bottom parts separated. And it's very easy to see here. There's a line here, so I'm just going to go ahead and follow that line and try to get as much of the moist brisket off of the top of the lean brisket. Alright, so now I separated my my flat from my point, and I can continue cutting this. This is alright. Now we go to my favorite part of the brisket, which is the moist part. And this part is just gonna fall. Now this part here, it's kind of where it becomes a ball. So the fibers are gonna, a very easy illustration of this, or a good illustration of this is that the fibers are going to be going in different directions. You're going to be hitting it the right way here, and then this is going to be wrong. See how the fibers are going this way? You want to cut against the fibers, but when it gets to this point of the brisket, you really can't go. You can follow it as much as possible, but it's gonna twist itself. Sorry, I had to take that one. Well, there you go, guys. That's the way you smoke a brisket using your Masterbuilt electric smoker. I did end up using that amazing Pellet Smoker edition, which turned out to be pretty good. It gave a nice little flavor to the meat. But once again, this has been the Smoking Beard. Thanks for watching.